All right. I thank you all for being here. My name is, let's see if that works. My name is Anthony Barocas. I am the Chief Gearhead here at Stream Tech, and I'm welcoming you to another live Stream Tech live stream. Today we're going to be talking about YOLO Live's cameras. Many people know them for the YOLO box, but not know that they already make 3 different cameras. I've been making them for a while. We're going to talk about that. But as always, welcome everyone to the show. Please let me know where you're watching from. We've got a special guest in Germany watching today. Hello to you. And we also have Denny McDowell watching from Indiana. Welcome, Denny. We have Muncie, Indiana jumping in here. We have Pico Riviera, California. Good morning to you. And we have Houston chiming in here as well. So as always, I'd love to know where people are watching from. We usually have another Germany. We've had Africa, South America, Australia, and things like that. So the nice thing about live streaming is that, oh, here we go. We've got Andreas from Greece. Thank you very much for being there. He's a regular here on the show. And again, oh wow, Lithuania. It's a place I would love to visit. So hey, shoot me an email. I can pick your brain about places to go. Thank you all for being here. And we have Detroit. And we're going to be talking about these cameras, but it's not limited to talking about the YOLO cameras. As always, if you have questions, the whole point of being here for the live show is you're here, I'm here, we're here live. It's sort of like, you know, I do consulting. You can reach out to me on the streamtech.us website and I do one-on-one consulting. But hey, if you throw a question in here and I'm able to answer it, I will do my best. If I'm not able to answer it, I will not be AI, search the web in 0.5 seconds and give you an answer that's half wrong. I will just tell you that I don't know. But I do have 30 years of experience that AI does not have, and I will be able to give you answers based on that. So feel free to throw in questions at any time, whether they are related to YOLO cams, cameras in general, tripods, audio, microphones, streaming, YOLO boxes, which we will be using the YOLO Box Extreme today. And the reason we are using the YOLO Box Extreme is because you can actually control at least 2 of these cameras via USB on the YOLO Box Extreme. I want to make that clear that the control for these cameras is over USB. It is not over HDMI. And while HDMI technically is a bi-directional protocol, I don't think it's really designed to go in there into the menus of these systems and control the sharpness per se, which you can do via the YOLO Box Extreme. Hopefully this capability comes to more of the YOLO boxes, because if you saw last week's live show, let's do that. If you saw last week's live show on the YouTube channel, if you haven't already subscribed, go over there, subscribe, like, find a video you like, share it to your social media so that other people can get to see this stuff. Last week's live, we did the YoloCams, the YoloCam S3, and I did it on the Ultra. And it was, I kept saying, it'd be really awesome when control capability comes to the YOLO boxes. Well, it actually already is in the Extreme, and I'm gonna be showing you that in a bit. So stay tuned for that. Also, as you can see over there, I have an in-show test stream. And that is actually coming out of the YOLO box because that's in 4K and I'm demoing 4K cameras. So if you want to actually see me talk about the cameras, that's this channel. If you want to see the actual video from the cameras themselves, that's going to be on that other channel. So maybe you might need 2 windows open today. It's going to be very interesting. I am streaming from 2 different devices. The stream you're looking at right here with me and the titles is coming from a Restream. And as I've mentioned before, I have an affiliate link with Restream if you want to check out this studio and be able to do all these cool things, including this QR code, which has this nice little effect that goes around it. There we go. You can do that by either typing bit.ly/st-restream, StreamTech for Restream, or you use your phone and scan this QR code, and that will take you to the Restream page. And they have a free account. You can sign up for free and try out the studio and things like that. You don't have to pay to get started with Restream. You can try it out. And then if you try it out and like it, then there's different tiers. There's a 720p tier, there's a 1080p tier, different amounts of destinations. And if you've seen my Restream show, there's dozens of destinations. If you've ever done multi-streaming from the YOLO box, you know that you can go to 3. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch are the only 3 APIs where you can pull in comments. Whereas on Restream, I am on Twitch, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and there's dozens of other ones I could use as well. And that's actually one of the cool things in that one of the first comments watching from Germany is actually on Twitch. So there you go. Twitch commenting actually works. I haven't got the Twitch content to stay there, but you know, that's cool. But that is just an example of what can be done with the Restream, going through Restream to leverage the Restream multicasting. So that's available for anybody who wants it. But you're not here for Restream. I'm thinking, you're not here for Restream. You're here for cameras. We're going to be talking about these 2 cameras mostly. This is the S3, one of the bigger large sensor cameras, webcams. It's about $200 US, $199. And this is the S7. Now you can see it's got this nice 1/4-20 thread on the bottom. So this is technically a vertical camera. This one, the webcam, has a magnet mount on the bottom. That's just a little picture of a magnet. It'll mag mount on the bottom, or it has a mag mount, sorry, wrong side, on this side. So it'll either do this or this and stick to the included mount. I'm not doing unboxing or anything like that. This is more about talking about the cameras and controlling them. So you can mount this horizontally. It's really strong magnets, or vertically. So this is a both camera. If you go to this one, the S7, it is got a 1/4-20 mount on the side. There's nothing over here and there's nothing over here, but they include a bracket, and the bracket allows you, or allows me, to screw into the 1/4-20. This is going to be a little challenging, and then mount it horizontally. And the same can be said for the PTZ camera that they offer. Now I can't get my fingers in there to tighten it. There we go. So this way, it can be mounted this way, and I've already got a mount that set up on a tripod over here, so I can quickly just get these situated. I have a micro 4/3 lens on the S7. It is a open micro 4/3 mount camera, meaning you can put on here what you want. Did I put this on wrong? I probably put this on wrong. I always forget which way is up, and I think it's this way, not this way. So we'll just flip it in the YOLO box. Easy enough. So the micro 4/3 mount, this is an active micro 4/3 mount, and this camera has a time of flight sensor right here so that it focuses the lens not via what the sensor is seeing, which is like how Panasonic cameras do it. They like look at what comes through the sensor, and then whether it's contrast or PDAF or whatever. This one has a time of flight sensor that is separate, that is measuring the distance and then tells the camera to focus. So that makes it actually lickety split fast in terms of getting the camera to focus, especially compared to my micro 4/3 cameras, my GH4s, which actually just suck in terms of autofocus. So that is an advantage. If you look at the YOLO Live If you look at the YOLO Live PTZ camera, did you know they made a PTZ camera? If you look at the YOLO Live PTZ camera really close, down there, it has the same time of flight sensor, very close to the lens, so that if you were to hold something up close, it's measuring that distance to be able to focus. Actually, you see how that works right there? And I bring it back and I bring it forward. Now, just so you know, I'm not using one of the YOLO cameras because they're all in front of you. I'm not using one of the YOLO cameras for this. This is my standard studio camera. This is a Sony ZV-1, the original one. It's been here for years. And I specifically chose this camera because before all these cameras had time of flight sensors, this was one of the first cameras that was able to do that lickety split and really smooth and really reliable autofocus. So that is why I'm using that there. But as you can see, they've got the time of flight sensor here. And if you look really carefully, you'll see the same, there's like little bars on the left and right of the lens of this PTZ camera. That's because the sensor in this camera is actually arranged vertically. It's a 9:16 sensor. So these are perfect for whatever vertical content you want to make because they still give you that PTZ capability, and they come with a remote, kind of looks like this, and it lets you have multiple cameras and multiple presets that you can jump to. So wide, close, over here, down on the table, back up, and things like that. Those can all be programmed into the camera and called up via the infrared remote. And the infrared remote can talk to multiple cameras. Has HDMI out, and it has USB 3, as well as RS-232 for control. If you're not using the remote, you could use a joystick for RS-232 and standard 12-volt input, which can be handy if you need to be out and about, like doing a concert in the park or something like that. 12-volt, very standard power supply voltage. And that makes the Verticam, which is HD only, a very useful choice for vertical produced content, as well as the YoloCam S7, which is designed vertically, and the S3, which is also designed to magnet to whatever piece of iron you have in a vertical format. Look like we got a couple more questions in. Oh, we did see one question come in. Again, throw your questions in at any time. This is live. If you're here live, the whole point of being here live is that you can use your fingers and type a question. Does the S3 support Wi-Fi? No, not at all. You have to power it via USB. There's no battery. There's no Wi-Fi. There's no HDMI. It's USB. It's a webcam. And webcams, sort of by and large, are USB. The S7 can be powered via, it has a power icon, can be powered via USB-C. I'll get this a little closer to you. Can be powered via USB-C. Then there's a Type-C connector locking for connection to your laptop or whatever you want to connect it to. And then there's also an HDMI and a microphone input. And that's a key distinction because the S3 does not actually have a microphone or a microphone input. So if you're using these like for a podcast, the people around the table, it's kind of assumed that you're going to have a bunch of table mics and boom arms and whatever. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to use the S3, unlike many other webcams that have microphones in them, this one does not. It has, it might look like it has a little mic right up there, but that's actually just a little LED light. And the same with the S7. It has a little, you can't see right down there, it has a little dot. That's just like a power light. And that way you can plug in a microphone to the S7, but you cannot plug a microphone into the S3. Let us look at the back of this cam. It has a line input right there. You can see HDMI out, line input as well as the RS-232 and 12 volt input. The reason this looks purple, it's actually blue. I have a blue screen, so it's keying out, but that's a blue USB 3 connection. All right. Is the PTZ able to be flipped horizontal in the extreme? You can rotate horizontal. Although, I mean, if you think about it, if you had the PTZ and I'm shooting me standing up vertically and you rotate it horizontal, then I am like this because the camera is filming vertically. If you want to use the horizontal frame horizontally, just mount it sideways. You know, just because it has a 1/4-20 thread on the bottom. So just mount it sideways, you know. And then this way, it can still do pan left, right, up, down. You know, it doesn't care. And now the sensor is sideways, and you can use the HDMI like any PTZ horizontal camera. Let me just take a look at the, I don't know the stats offhand. It has a 16x, 12x optical zoom and a 16x with a digital zoom. So 12x optical zoom in the vertical PTZ, in the Verticam PZ. The S7, it depends upon what lens you put on there. You can put a very shallow piece of glass, you know, shallow depth of field piece of glass on there. Or if you're doing, you know, a dance recital and you're in the back of the hall, you can put a really long piece of glass on there. That's the magic of the Micro Four Thirds. You put on the lens that you want. So if you need more than 12x optical zoom, you can do that. You know, I have, because I have had many multiple Micro Four Thirds cameras. I have right here a Micro Four Thirds that goes from 12 to 200 millimeters. And that is a very long zoom. But if I needed to like do baseball and reach all the way to home plate from the outfield, this would be the lens for it. And then you can always even add a 2x teleconverter on the back too. Plus, the Micro Four Thirds mount also lets you, you know, adapt because it's a mirrorless, so you can use any mirrored camera lens with an adapter. So this is an old Minolta, which is a Sony Alpha mount now, and I have adapted it to Micro Four Thirds. Now I can't control the lens. The iris and everything is sort of, it's physically set with a gear here because it's normally controlled by the camera, and this one won't do it. But this can be used, and this is a 210 millimeter lens plus the crop factor of 2. So this is like a 400 millimeter lens. So there's lots of capabilities with regards to Micro Four Thirds to deliver the field of view you want. You can choose that lens. Now, understanding that lenses cost extra. You know, the S7, like the Mevo Core, doesn't come with a lens. So you get the camera, but then you have to buy glass on top of it. So thank you very much for the question. Got a couple more check-ins. We got Arlington, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. And RC Fun Time is in East Mine, Illinois. Thank you both for being here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook these up. Let's see if I can go to my overhead. I've got, oh, wow, that's really tight. Let me zoom this back a little bit. Yeah, this is not a parfocal lens, as you can tell. So there we go. I've got the Extreme here. I do have an HDMI out so that you can see my screen. I have two HDMI ins. One is this program, which is now actually being broadcast to YouTube. Hello, YouTube, on the 4K. And then this is just a blank HDMI that I was going to plug into the S3, the S7, I'm sorry, because the S3 does not have an HDMI out. So I'm going to plug that in there. And this also has the locking USB-C. So I can plug it into the USB-C connection here, which is going to both power the camera, give me video from the camera, and let me control the camera. So that is hopefully booting up. Type C. Unless I got to hook up another cable for the actual, that is plugged into the Type C connector of the, oh, that is backwards, isn't it? I am going to have to reverse this. That is plugged into the USB-C connector on top of the Extreme. Why did I go out of focus? There we go. And so I'm going to have to flip this over because I figured this out yesterday when I did my setup that I needed it the other way, and I just put it on wrong today. I was debating with myself whether I should put like a sticky on here and say, put it on this side. And I didn't do the sticky, and I walked into the same problem. But that's why we practice and rehearse, right? So if you haven't already, tell me if you have one of these cameras, or if you're looking at one of these cameras, which one of these cameras are you looking at? I'm curious, you know, if you're here to watch the YoloCam show, which YoloCam is the one that's really, you know, catching your eye? Which one has what it is that you're looking for? And I did not see the USB 2 USB come up on here yet, so I am going to grab one of my handy dandy, readily available USB cables, and hopefully that will help it boot up with extra power. We'll see. I don't know how much power it needs, but now I've got all three cables in here. I've got the USB for connectivity. I've got USB for power, I hope. I don't see the light up. And I've got USB going to the YOLO box. And you know what? Let me just unplug that and plug it back in again to make sure that it is in all the way. And there's no USB on the bottom. So I'm hoping those come up, or it comes up eventually, because it's not coming up yet. Let me try a different USB over here. Maybe it needs more power because those are 2 amp. Let's try this one. I'm still not seeing a light up on this, and I don't know why. That is plugged in. Well, that's a damper on things, isn't it? Let me put this over here and lock it into place. All right, so that is over there. Oh, and it's heavy. And then I have the YoloCam S3, which I have another USB cable right here for. I will plug this in. This is going into the YOLO box USB A, and this one is lighting up right there. And soon this will be available so that we can check that out. Boom, boom. USB 2, and now you can see that the USB 2, this is the S3. And that is coming in hopefully at 4K, because when you bring down the display, and this is why I wanted you to be able to see the display. When you bring down the display, oh, it does tell you USB 2 is 1920 by 1080. Well, no, I don't want USB 2 to be 1920 by 1080. I'm going to unplug that. I want it to be 4K. So I'm going to unplug it. I mean, delete this and have it connect again. Because I want 4K. The whole point of having a 4K webcam is to connect in 4K, right? And there's USB 1. And then you see down here on the bottom left, it says camera setting. We can go into the camera settings. Maybe about device. Yeah, S3. It knows it's an S3. White balance, exposure, focus, image sharpness, but there's no like change in resolution. I guess whatever it connects to the device and communicates, like, will you do 4K? I mean, I have this set to 4K because if we exit this and we go into my record settings, I am recording at 4K. I am streaming live at 4K, as you can see at the top next to that little square there. And done. I am streaming at 13 megabits. And if I bring this down now, it says it's still connecting at 1920 by 1080. So the question is, how do you get it to connect at 4K to the YoloBox? And how do we get the S7 to even appear? That's a very good question. It's not booting up. I guess I should have done even more rehearsals. Maybe because it's USB-A. Could be. But this is the cable the S3 comes with. Thank you very much for that suggestion. Maybe because the USB 1 is USB-A, but it is a USB 3 connector on top of the device. But you bring up a good point. What if I take the USB-C from the S7 and put it into the S3 so that it is USB-C all the way? We can try that. I'm going to unplug it. As you can see, it just went away. And now since this one just comes off, I will plug this little connector, which is plugged into the USB-C over here. It is blinking. It is starting to wake up. And we will see USB-C, don't know frames per second. 1920 by 1080 at 60 frames per second. Very interesting. Very interesting. You know, I had planned to do a nice 4K show here. But I didn't get to like hook everything up and test it all the way through. Serves me right, I guess. If it was input as a USB-C, maybe it would be 4K then. Well, unfortunately, that does not seem to be the case. I have the S7 looking at another S7, S3, and now after seeing it, a PTZ. So here's a question, RC Funtime. Is all of your content vertical? Is that why you'd be interested in this, in the YoloLive Verticam? Because it is vertical. I mean, there are other PTZ cameras out there, you know, like the Tail Air and things like that, that are 4K and are under $1,000. The Verticam is specifically designed from the very basic premise of how the sensor is arranged to be vertical first. And it's one of the few cameras out there that is doing that. Go back into the live scene and go into video sources. Should be able to pick the camera up and change. Go back into live scenes. Yeah, there's my camera. I mean, I can pick it up. And HDMI 7 is my main camera. So this is the Sony, which I know is coming out as HD to everything because it's going through a distribution amplifier. And this is the USB-C S3 now. And that is coming in, according to this, 1920 by 1080 at 60 frames per second. Now, when I built this show, I set it to record and stream at 4K. So one question is the YoloBox only requesting HD from the source cameras? That is a very interesting question. If I don't need to change. And I don't see frame rate settings for 1, 2, and 3, which I'm not using. NDI out, SD recording file, USB, Apple Web, YOLO deck. Nope. Resolution of the program is 4K. There you go, right there. 4K. My program is 4K. maybe it's because my program is 4K 60 and the camera can only do 4K 30. I would think that even if my program is 4K 60, if the camera can do 4K, it would just deliver 4K 30 and the YOLO would interpolate up to 60. That's very interesting. I'm from South Africa. Can I stream using YoloBox Ultra with DJI Mini 2 SE? I would say yes, but like with anything, you have to get the video signal from the DJI Mini 2 SE into your YoloBox. Whether it be RTMP, RTSP, USB, or some other method, that would be how you do that. Have you had problems with the Ultra having guest audio be bad, clicking and robotic sounding? I have not, but I have multiple devices for production, and I don't use the Ultra on a daily basis. So I do not have regular experience with the Ultra in a variety of situations to be able to quantify if there's an issue. And then, as always, make sure you're on the most recent firmware update. And if you have an issue, you can email Josh and everybody in the Facebook group for specific updates for specific problems that you may be having. So I would love to get the YoloCam, this one up and running. And I don't know why it's not firing up. Now, this one is the one that has the Type-C, and this says just power. I'm giving it just power, and my power is plugged in, and it is enough amps. Should be enough amps. Do I need to use this cable? That's a very good question. We're going to focus on this one for right now, and I'm going to take this out of the YOLO box. I'm going to untangle the spaghetti, and I'm going to plug it into a big adapter. Oh, not that one, of course. I've got a 45 watt adapter here. Let's try this. And then I'm going to plug this into the power connector and see if that boots it up. There we go. Apparently it just needs more power. And then I am going to plug this back into the C. Now that the camera is up and running, I'm going to move the cables back to their original happy places. I hope that the power cable reaches for the S7. Otherwise, I'll have to run it behind the table here. Yeah, I'll probably have to do that. So, put this back over here. Plug the S3 back into the USB-A cable, since we tried the C to C, and that did not seem to help the HD-ness of it. And figure out where that, oh, it is still plugged in. Okay, good. So those are both going to be booting up. I'm going to run the power cable. You'll have to excuse me a moment while I run on. Have you had problems with, okay, I answered that one already. Feel free to throw more questions in while I'm running and powering this up. All I need to do is plug it in. It will get enough power. There we go. And then we will be able to look at the control panels for both the S3 and the S7 as seen on the YoloBox Extreme. So that is one of the really cool things. So right here, I've got USB 1 and USB-C. So USB-C is the S7. So this is the S7. And I also have it coming in HDMI. And it should tell me USB-C is still coming in at HD, but the HDMI coming out of the S7 is coming in at 4K. So the camera is doing 4K. The YOLO box is doing 4K. Just the USB is not doing 4K. Very interesting. And maybe it's a bug that YOLO can sit there and say, let's fix that. But you can see I am pulling in 4K from that end. So if you wanted to look at the S7, I can go into my HDMI 8. I can rotate. I can rotate. There we go. So now this is 4K. Look at that. Zoop. Zoop. And again, let me make this bigger so you can see it. This is, you see how fast the background goes out of focus and goes back in when I hold my hand up to it? This is because the time of flight sensor is just way faster. It's also a bit more abrupt than if I go up here. You almost don't see it happen. It's more of a smoother transition, whereas the time of flight sensor is talking to a lens that is not its own. That's the difference between Sony's talking to a Sony lens and a Sony camera so they can adjust how it moves. The YoloCam, YOLO doesn't know what lens I put on there. So all they could do is issue instructions to the lens, but the lens is gonna jerk around however it wants to. I have an Olympus lens on here. But you can see it has no problem following my hand and then focusing back on me. Now, as we were talking about on the S7, we are going to, I just want to make sure this is, that is all the way out. That is zoomed all the way out, and that is comparable, actually, to the USB camera. I can maybe pan that just a little bit so they're more in line, and you can see that they're both kind of comparable. And if you're watching the other stream, I'll do a side by side. This is how I usually end up crashing the machine, side by side, because I use up too much memory, and move the separator position. So this is the S3 and the S7 side by side, and we can make that bigger. S3 also able to like change the focus. You see that it's working very nicely in terms of, you know, if I needed to do product shots, the S3 would actually be a very nicely done. And the S7 definitely at 4K feels crisper, has more detail in the hair, and has smoother motion. And again, let's look at that. No, they're all coming in at 60 frames per second, but for whatever reason, the S7 feels smoother when I'm moving my hand around than this one. This one just does not feel as smooth, and I wonder if it's stuttering any. But these are the two cameras. Now, my goal was to have them in both 4K side by side, but you can also see the USB of the S3 is before the HDMI of the S7. Let us exit that, and we can go into the PTZ control. No, there's no PTZ control on that. But what we can do is we can go into the USB version and go into the camera setting. And again, this is available. Yes, it's up. You know what? I'll just go flip it so we're not looking at an upside down image. Rotate. Rotate. There we go. Then I'll come in here and go into camera settings. Oh, interesting. So you might say, you know, maybe this looks a little overexposed. You can actually go into the exposure and say, you know what? Bring it down a stop. Bring it down 2 stops. Bring it down 3 stops. And I actually really like the fact that this interface has a minus and plus button. So you're not just trying to drag this around. You could just, say, come down a stop, go up a stop, go up a stop, go up a stop. Now I'm at -1. And then there's an aperture. Yes, there is an aperture on this. It does not. Does it go down to 3.6? I don't think it does. What if we go up to f11? I'm going to guess that it's changing the ISO, which is not available here. Oh, manual. There we go. Now that we have manual exposure, I can adjust the ISO. So if I adjust this, it should technically get dramatically brighter. Don't you think? If I'm increasing the ISO, it should get incredibly brighter. 400 is darker, 160 is darker, down to 100 is incredibly dark. Aperture of f11 should, or f10 should make it very dark. Aperture of 3.6 should make it very bright, but it's not. So you can see that more directly. It does not seem to be controlling the aperture of the lens as one would expect. Oh, wait, there it finally closes down at f20. But if I open it up, I think there's a minimum, but it's at wide open, it's probably f5.7. So I should be seeing a difference here, and I'm not. This should definitely be changing a lot more than it is. Let's go back to auto exposure, boom, and then I'm at -1. And once you set your exposure, which is how the camera is taking in light, hopefully with a bit more of actual control. Once you set that, then you can go over to your color controls, adjust your white balance, because you don't want to try to white balance while it's overexposed. It's not going to read properly because it's just totally crushed. And then you can go over to your image controls. Do you feel that this is too high contrast? You can bring down the contrast and even out the tone a little bit. Do you want more saturation in here? Yeah, let's add a little bit more saturation in there. Distortion correction. You can see that edge over here on the right. You watch how this changes when I add the distortion correction. And that is something that is built into Micro Four Thirds lenses because they are built for a small sensor. They are built with compromise, and Micro Four Thirds lenses have compromise information built into the lenses, and then the camera executes that. So if you ever look at a Micro Four Thirds lens test site, they'll give you, here's raw and how the image is distorted, and then here is the corrected version. So some lenses are really far off from being perfect lenses. And they can do that on Micro Four Thirds lenses and make them a little bit cheaper than big full frame glass that used to be designed for film cameras where there was no correction. The lens had to be absolutely perfectly right through just the lens. When you have the ability to have the camera to fix things, you can make the lens a little bit smaller with, you know, a couple plastic elements and then fix it in post, so to speak. So it's not inherent of the YOLO or the camera, it's inherent of the Micro Four Thirds format. And that is an interesting distinction when you talk about, like, you know, oh, there's correction, that means the camera is not a very good camera. No, it does not mean the camera is not a very good camera. It's just the nature of Micro Four Thirds lenses is that there are lens corrections available to make the lens appear to be a better lens than it actually is. Hello, bro, how are you? Greeting from Rwanda, the land of 1,000 hills. Welcome from Rwanda. Thank you very much for being there. And actually, hello from South Africa, streaming using the YOLO Box Ultra with DJI Monday to good day to you as well. And so that's 2 from Africa as well. That's pretty cool. Thank you very much for being there. Let's get back to here. So you can see distortion correction does fix out, even out the image a little bit. And you can have corner correction. does not seem to do anything here, but it does do more as we showed with the S3 and the S3 video. So if I switch and I go over to USB 1, which is my S3, and then I do the corner correction, you can see this is how the camera is bringing everything in, bright in the center, a little darker out here, and then if I turn this corner correction on, it evens out the tone of the image. And again, even with the S3, I can bring the contrast down. I can increase the saturation a little bit. I can increase the sharpness or dial the sharpness down. If I don't want it super crispy and crinkly and I want a smoother, more cinematic image, you can dial the sharpness down a little bit. That's okay. And if you're bringing it in at 4K, it's going to be super hyper sharp anyway. If you are bringing it in at 4K. Here you can see AF, it has autofocus continuous, autofocus single, which is usually if you were doing a still image, that's what you would use. And then face focus. So you can see it's following that face. What if I leave? Where does it go? It's got me. It's got me. All right, we'll put it back on autofocus continuous. It's just whatever's in the center. So if I go like this, there it goes. I have to be here, not here, here. And I do like cameras that can just focus on whatever is there in that focus area. You see a lot of people that are like, oh, I'm going to hold this up, but then I have to hide my face. And they're constantly doing this. Well, this just looks cumbersome. It's sort of like, here, just focus on this, Just focus on it. And I'm not covering my face. And it just does it. So I appreciate that. White balance. So you can dial in a custom white balance. It's set at 5,000. So if we rotate it down to 35, oh wait, if we just go to 32, well, I should look incredibly blue at this point. Oh, is it on auto? Well, that's not correct. That's what it should look like. There we go. If you set it for daylight, my light, which is indoors, will look very orange. If you set it for cloudy, it looks a little bit less orange. If you set it for indoor light, it looks a little blue. If you set it for sunlight, it looks there. If you put it on auto, I actually think the auto does a pretty good job. And I would be very happy with that white balance. I would not have to do a manual white card on that at all. And then being able to manually shift the red and blue. Like if you thought it was still a little bit too blue, you could go in here, go into that down here in the blue shift and dial the blue back a little bit and, warm it up, so to speak. So that is really nice. Then lastly, you've got a firmware update and check the about device. And it tells you I have a YoloCam S3. Hey, let's see. Can I upgrade it from here? Apparently not. Already on the latest version. Thanks for letting me know. So that is the S3. Let's go back over to the S7 camera control settings. We've got the image. As you saw, you've got distortion correction, which is not available on the S3, but the corner correction does not really have any effect because it doesn't really apply. Then you've got autofocus single. You've got focus speed, standard and fast. Let's go back to standard and see if that changes things. So if it's still going pretty snappy. It like waits for a moment, sees that it's changed, and then moves there. Focus channel. I don't know what the focus channels are. Focus area is large, and then you can set it to, how tight you want it to be, and then face focus. Let's see if that works. Ooh. Okay, I've got it on face focus. Yeah, I don't think we're going to leave it on face focus. But interestingly, the USB is like that, but the HDMI is fine. So if I was pulling HDMI off of it, it's fine. But in the USB with that setting of face focus, I'm getting this blotchiness. So let's not do the face focus. Let's put it back on just autofocus continuous. Focus enhancement. I don't need enhancement. Then we have the exposure controls, which we've already explored. We have the white balance controls. We can say it's cloudy, it's overcast, it's indoors, fluorescent, which is not, I have a big LED panel. It's sunny or auto. And again, I think it's doing a good job with auto. Microphone type. So there is no microphone connected to the YoloCam. So if we come back out, let's look at audio. On the HDMI 8 and the USB-C, you can see that there is no microphone connected. So there is no microphone, whether it be over USB-C or the HDMI. It's telling you that there would be an audio channel there and it's encoded as part of the signal, but there's no built-in microphone, as I said, on the YoloCam S7s, but there is a input on the back, and there's actually a shoe on top of the cameras, making it very easy to get a little directional, Mevo microphone or whomever, and put that on top, Rode microphone, whoever, and that way you have a microphone aiming the direction of the camera, or you can have a stereo receiver from, 2.4 gigahertz wireless mics going into the device, and that will be passed through both via USB-C and HDMI into the device. But as I was showing you, if you go into the camera settings and the microphone, you can adjust the settings for that input, including noise reduction, which is pretty slick. Now, again, the noise reduction is going to be performed in the YOLO box, not in the camera. It's going to be performed in the YOLO box. And then you can delay the microphone input in case, like we showed, if you're using the HDMI at 4K and the audio is coming in and you need to delay the audio to match the video, you've got a delay setting for that and an automatic gain, which you can turn off. And then last, the settings camera firmware upgrade. Apparently, I need to upgrade. And about the device, I have the S7. So, you know what? I'm not going to update it right now. I don't want to take the camera down for anything in the middle of the show. But I really do appreciate, now that I've got the S7 powered with a 45 watt power adapter, I don't know specifically which, let me see, YoloCam. See if it has it in here in the manual. I don't have every fact for every device memorized in my head. 12 volts, 1 amp. So if you're feeding this, you're not going to need to feed it 5 volts. It has a USB input, but it needs to be a PD input. That's the key. The charger I have on the desk is not a PD charger. So even though it's a USB cable, it's still coming out at 5 volts. 5 volts at 3 amps doesn't help because it needs PD power at 12 volts. Now, PD is a USB charging specification. PD power, it uses the same cables. Again, we talked about this with the S3 and the power and the USB tester I had. PD power is something different. It means it's able to deliver not just 5 volts at 2.4 or 3 amps, but it's able to deliver 12 volts or 15 volts or even higher at greater amperages that, some equipment needs to operate. So make sure you have a PD power supply that's going to deliver, according to the specifications, 12 volts at 1 amp. But 12 volts is the key to why it was not working with the power adapter I have mounted to the bottom of my table, which is just a 5 volt power adapter, even though it's using USB-C. Not all USB-C is created equal. Question comes in: what are the lenses you are using? On the, let's go side by side. On the YoloCam S3. It is the built-in lens. And if you're watching this, just want to reiterate to people that on the Stream Tech YouTube page, there is the in-show test stream that's actually coming from the YOLO box. So you can actually see the feed from the YOLO box, and I have my main camera audio going into it. So you will still have audio, even if it's out of sync with these cameras. Disregard that. But you can actually watch that. That is a 4K stream coming from both of these cameras. And this show is the YoloCam's S3, S7 Verticam. So both of those are live right now on the Stream Tech YouTube channel. I will leave the in-show test stream. I'll probably change the thumbnail. I will leave that there after the event so you can watch the 4K content as you choose. Then I have the USB one, which is the YoloCam S3 webcam with the built-in lens. So there's not an extra lens on that. And then this one is the 4K HDMI being provided by a Olympus 15 to 42, 12 to 42 zoom lens. It's a macro lens too. I use it for photography. But as I was saying before, you can put anything on there. I've been using Micro Four Thirds since the GH2 days, which is well over a decade, probably 12, 15 years. So I have acquired, some lenses, So whether if you want something small and compact, you can go with like a little 14 millimeter. Let's see from there you go, 14 millimeter lens like this. It's really just a little pancake of a lens, And this adds like almost nothing to the camera, But it's a single focal length and it's fairly wide if that's what you want. But the Micro Four Thirds mount lets you put on there what you want. You can mount anything. You can even go kind of crazy. You can mount this to the camera. Actually, you don't mount this to the camera. You mount the camera to this. This is a Micro Four Thirds adapter on a B4 mount ENG lens that used to go on shoulder big ENG camera. So just imagine there's a big camera on my shoulder. That's what's missing. This has a doubler in here. This got a constant aperture. It's parfocal, so if I zoom in and focus and zoom out, it's still tech sharp as long as you got your back focus set, and that's the key thing as well. You can power this thing. It's got a power cable on here. You can power this thing for nice, smooth servo zoom lenses. That is something that is available to anyone. And if you are curious about that, I happen to have a website just for that. Let's go over here. I have a group called B4 on Micro Four Thirds, and that is specifically for putting, I may move my cursor out of the way, for putting ENG glass on Micro Four Thirds cameras like the YoloCam S7. You can do this. It'd be kind of wonky. And as I said, the lens is going to weigh much more than the camera. So you mount the lens to the tripod and then you hang the camera off the back. You mount the camera to the lens. And that's what you can see here. The camera is mounted, if I bring my cursor over here, the camera is mounted. Right here is the mount, the adapter mount from B4 to Micro Four Thirds, and then it's got this what we call a little foot. The foot is mounted to this tripod, and then you push it way back. So the center of balance is actually here, and then I gently bring my GH4 camera up and I mount it to the back of the lens. And then I had a matte box with 2 filter stages on the front of this, and I had this carry handle which was over top of the center of balance, and then I put a shotgun microphone on the front of that. And here you can see the front of the view through the camera of what the GH4 is taking right there. So that is one of the groups that I've created on Facebook for people who want to do crazy things like that. I've also created another group called Teradek AirMix. If you want to do multi-camera live switching using an iPad, Teradek AirMix is a free orphaned app from Teradek. No Teradek support, but there's a group of us with 65 members who can post and, hey, did you get this to work? How can I get that to work? You know, what device do you use and things like that. If you need one-to-one consulting, feel free to go to streamtech.us where you got the contact us page, and I can provide one-to-one consulting. And I also write for Streaming Media Magazine. In addition to, you can find that at streamingmedia.com. And if you haven't already, subscribe, check out all the videos, the hundreds of videos on the StreamTech YouTube page, so that if you were interested in B4 lenses, you could type in B4, hit enter, and see the videos that I already have on this. ENG glass on DSLRs, big zooms on DSLRs, long lenses, call-in show, you know, different things like that where I've talked about B4 lenses. That is a great feature of YouTube, to be able to search for exactly what you're looking for, you know, because with hundreds of videos, I'm not saying you have to watch everything, but if there's a specific something that you are interested in, just drill down to that, you know. So there's lots and lots of videos here that, you know, are of interest to different people. You may not be interested in vMix, but somebody who is interested in vMix can come up here, click on this, type vMix, and get to the videos where I talk about vMix, or the TriCaster, or the OC Duet video mixers, or all of the YoloBox videos. That's one of the great features about the channel. I'm pretty much wrapped up here, unless you've got any more questions with regards to these specific cameras and capabilities. You can see there's also the LUT capability over here. So if you wanted to, you can load a LUT in from your SD card. So if you have a camera coming in, I mean, this is not unique to these cameras. It's one of the things that the YoloBox can do. You can load a LUT in, and you could be shooting in RAW on your camera coming in via HDMI, RAW or log or whatever, and then apply a LUT, and then there's an intensity there as well. You can see my HDMI. Let's do both of those side by side again. And here, once again, for those who are watching the 4K stream, you can see the 4K on the S7 and HD on the S3, because the S3, for whatever reason, is coming in via the USB 1 at 1920 by 1080. The S7 is coming in USB-C at 1920 by 1080. But the S7 is also coming in the HDMI at 4K, as you can see right there. The program I'm producing on the YoloBox is being produced in 4K at 60 frames a second. So I'm producing in 4K, but the USB feeds are not coming in at 4K, despite the fact that these are both 4K cameras, and USB-C and USB 3 would be able to handle that data rate just fine. They are coming in at 1080. Maybe somebody will let me know after the fact. You know, they'll comment in the Facebook group and say, "Oh, the reason it didn't work is because of this," and I'll test it and they'll be right. It'll be some little thing like, "Oh no, you need to exit the show and then come back in." Who knows? But this has been a look at the S3 and the S7 by YoloLive, as well as a brief look at this. If you want, let's do a little bit on this as well, because, we're only an hour into this. This is the YoloCam PTZ, the Verticam. And that's because it is vertical. Now, I'm in a horizontal show, so be that as it may. We have a remote, I think. That's it. I think the remote I have out will work for this, but I will quickly power this up and plug it in so we can see what this looks like. right here. And we will power this up. As I've learned, put it down quick. And then we will use the remote. And I will need an HDMI cable. So, happen to have one of those right here. We're going to plug this into here. And there we go. Do I have enough power cable to move this back? If I don't, I'm going to do it anyway. Oh, it fell out. There we go. And this way, I hope that I can anchor this. There we go. It's booting up, and you can see it down there, HDMI 6. Zoop. And there I am on the YoloCam. Now, as I said, you have the ability to tilt this. You use the infrared remote. You tilt it up, tilt it down. You can zoom in. You can zoom out. You can set presets. You can set the focus auto. So if I bring my hand up real close, you see how it's, let's make it bigger. I bring my hand up closer, and it's using the same time of flight. Oh, it's got stuff in front of it. And it's got time of flight sensor so that, up, look at me, put me in the middle. Zoom in. So that if I were to like bring something in front, it's going to move, you know, to whatever is reflecting back from the time of flight sensor closest. It has nothing to do about the face. It has just the time of flight sensor on the front of the camera. And then it has a menu that you can use to adjust exposure, your color, your image. So you can go in there, and you have to set all of these, obviously not during the show, because the HDMI out is where you see these things. But you can come in here, let's go white balance mode, variable, auto, there we go, much better. And then we just exit out of the menu. So now you can see this is the YoloCam. And like I was saying, if you wanted to use the YoloCam for vertical content, that's what it's made for. This is how the sensor is arranged in the camera. There, you know, if you wanted to use it for horizontal content, all you would need to do is, whoops, not rotate it that way, but rotate it sideways at, you know, 90 degrees. Oops. And then I'm trying to hold a thing that's got a bunch of movable parts. And then zoom out a little bit. You can use this to do horizontal content. If you were hard pressed to do it, you can use this. But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily say this is the best solution for horizontal content. This is purpose built, called the YoloCam, for a reason, to produce vertical content. And again, all I did here was I plugged in HDMI out and the power out, and I'm using the infrared remote, and that's how fast you know this is up and running and ready to go. So we've got the YoloCam, we've got the S7, we've got the S3, and these are the three YoloCams at the moment. Who knows if YOLO is going to come out with, you know, even more cameras, because they have the ability. Clearly, they can make some good cameras. The S3 is a very good camera, delivering some of the best color, I feel, right out of the box, plus having the ability to control the camera via USB in the YOLO box is very cool. I wish it came in via 4K, but maybe that'll be a firmware update on the YOLO box end, because I honestly don't know why we're seeing, you know, the 1920 by 1080 inputs over the USBs when they are 4K cameras going into a 4K device. You know, the resolution of my program is 4K. So I don't know why they are coming in at that resolution when, you know, via HDMI, I have 4K from the camera at no problem. Oh, no, I don't want to leave this yet. Actually, you know what? I am going to terminate the stream now. So goodbye to everyone watching. Goodbye to everyone watching the stream. I'm going to